Mac, John McClellan, Jordan McDonald here with you on Birds 365. There he is, the Broads man, head of Broads Media, and now hosting regularly on WIP these days. Glad to get Hunter Brody into the mix with us again here on Birds 365. All right, Hunter, I'm going to start at the end and work backward. Eagles lose the game. Percentage chance Nick Sirianni is fired. What does a win or a loss in this game do to percentage chance that Nick Sirianni is told after 3 years in a row making the playoffs, sorry, not good enough. The collapse is just up. We can't get over.
Yeah, it's a good question, honestly. And it shouldn't take one. Here's the problem, right? I don't think it should be a one game makes the difference. Either you like the guy to move forward or you don't. But because there's been such a collapse, I think you can reasonably make that kind of discussion happen. So if it continues down the path that we saw against Arizona, and it looks just as bad as it did against the New York Giants on this final game, I think it's 50-50. I truly do. I think it's 50-50. We've seen it before, and I almost wonder because there's plenty of different ways a football team can lose, but it really does seem like there's a big disconnect between the head coach and the players, and there's a lot of veteran leadership in this group, right? Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, for it to even go through them, and now it's just out of whack to this level, you must really be losing the room. We heard from Jay Glazer an hour before the 1 o'clock kickoff that A.J. Brown had a Week 18 players-only meeting to say it's time to start believing in the coach. So it's so much deeper than just losing a football game. And when it gets to that point, once you lose respect from the squad, can you get it back? I don't know. So I say it's a coin flip if it trends in the same direction, which is crazy, by the way. I want to make sure that's known. That's crazy, but I do think it's real.
Yeah. They went to the escape room. I think the team meeting was in the escape room, but I don't know if they were trying to escape from Nick Sirianni, Hunter.
Ooh, that's not good. That's not good.
50-50. If they fire Nick Sirianni, and by the way, if they played like they did against the New York Giants, maybe they should fire Nick Sirianni. But
that's what Hunter said.
But I think it's kind of baked in. They're not going to play like that because remember, a bunch of guys didn't play, a bunch of guys they pulled early.
Sure.
And you're going to have a bunch of guys back that they were playing cautious with. So bad decisions all around. But let's say they play that poorly and they fire Nick Sirianni. What does that say about Jeffrey Lurie?
That's a good question as well. See,
so
we know we're like a knee-jerk reaction city, right? But I don't think that this would be a knee-jerk reaction. I think you can seriously, legitimately make honest reasons and logical decisions when it comes to, or just, all right, I'll restart here. I'm all flustered. I got Cutter Gauthier, all right, in the Flyers.
I'm going to get to that, buddy.
Listen.
I'm going to get to the J.D. Drew.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
But my point is, I really do believe that you can make the case and make it make sense to let this guy go. And Jeffrey Lurie is a smart man. So what's it say? That he's willing to move quickly? Yeah, I guess. I can't automatically say I think it's wrong because I think Nick is falling apart and collapsing in front of our eyes. I don't think it would be a horrendous decision, even though it is crazy. It is crazy because he is making playoffs 3 straight years in a row, but he's collapsing. This thing is real. This is no joke. This is a historic level collapse, and his team's identity makes no sense. The offense is crap. There's so much happening here. It would be a quick decision, but I don't know if it would say that he's a bad owner or a quick reactionary. I don't know, but I think it's legit that you could fire the guy. I'm very uncomfortable right now.
By the way, this is why I love, I'm sorry, Joey. This is why I love Hunter Brody, because he got legit and crazy in the same explanation.
Of course.
Right. Here's where we're at with Sirianni. There's the truth, there's lies, and there's damn lies. And we know that Nick has jumped into the lies category this year. Sorry you got caught, Nick. We know you've lied, but because the word came out that Matt Patricia was going to be the defensive coordinator, and you still hoisted your boy up, Jordan Desai, and made him talk to the media after you had already told him, guess it, as of next week, you're not calling the plays anymore. So we don't always know about the truth and the lies. Like, do the Flyers really not know why Cutter Gauthier isn't a Philadelphia Flyer? We're supposed to believe that, huh? So people lie. I don't know as to how the decision to strip Desai came down. We're led to believe, because he says it, that it was all Nick Sirianni's idea, that he made the call. Yeah, he ran it by Jeffrey, but he brought it to them. And he decided this was, you talk about overreaction, and knee-jerk was the word you used. There's no more knee-jerk than stripping a guy when the team is 10-3 with his defensive responsibility. So if that was Nick and Jeff and Howie kind of threw their hands up and said, it's your team. If you really want to do this, go ahead, coach. I think that weighs heavily on his being fired. If Jeff and Howie went to Nick and said, our defense stinks. And I know we all collaboratively thought that I brought this eye into the building. Howie says, Nick said, yeah, I green lighted him. But we're all in agreement we're not doing a job defensively. Something's got to change. If that's the case, if it was something that was initiated from above, I think that gives Sirianni more leeway and lets him keep his job even if they lose.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I can't believe that it was Nick. I just can't. That really goes against Nick, because at that point, don't you feel that the offensive coordinator would have changed as well? He seems to be I'm going to stick to my guns guy. I believe in my guys. No, there's no change in play calling. No, there's no change anywhere around me. That's the message he said.
But he changed it.
I know. So I have to believe, and we know how this works. There's no way Nick Sirianni has all the power here. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie were the ones to make that call. And
I don't know.
Look, if it's anybody else, that's a fireable offense. This thing got worse. It got worse. Matt Patricia is worse than Sean Desai. Yep. This man is getting torched by Kyler Murray, getting torched by Tyrod Taylor. I'm sure you're going to have a rebuttal in about 5 seconds, but the first play of the game, here's Hassan Reddick dropping back, middle of the field's wide open. It's a disaster. Whoever made that call, and I'm a Howie Roseman fan, all right? I'm a Howie Rosemansman, but there's no way you can put Sean Desai out there, or excuse me, Matt Patricia. I told you, my mind's not working. Yeah. You can't do it. You can't do it. I'm going back to Desai. But if I'm Desai, I'm flipping you the middle finger on my way out. I ain't doing that. No way am I doing that. So I think it was Howie. But you're right. It probably does give Sirianni a little leash. I apologize for this hit, by the way. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing.
I love it.
Okay.
Now, I'll tell you why none of it matters, though, Hunter. If you listen to Chad Ochocinco, the Eagles are playing possum.
Yes.
Dallas Goedert kind of mentioned that as well. Well, we're just waiting for the playoffs.
That's crazy.
Are they going to – is the light switch coming on? Are we going to see the 1985 Bears in Tampa Bay on Monday night?
No, you can't do that. You can't do that. I mean, oh my God, could you imagine if they were seriously playing possum? And this is why I go back to Nick Sirianni. By the way, I did a recent show on Broads Media, and the title was The Ultimate Flip-Flopper. One day I wake up and I go, Nick deserves time. The next day I wake up and I go, I don't know, man, this guy's a clown. So I am the ultimate flip-flopper. You caught me on a day where I can't stand the man. So let's have fun with it. But I cannot think that they're just going to automatically flip everything around. And, to that point, a head coach, if you're satisfied at 10-1 that you're already in, you have a number one NFC seed to try and go get. Do you know how much easier it is to win a Super Bowl when you get a bye, you get to play at home? All of that is still fair and in play. And if you let your team take the foot off the gas, that's poor coaching. That is poor coaching. And that goes even farther than the X's and the O's and the strategy. That is a correlation between the guy who's at the top, who's trying to keep the room together, and why we're seeing a disaster. He isn't keeping them in the mental spot week by week. If you're just going to let the team go, well, we're already in. That's horrible. You're already in. You can't already in this thing. So if that is true, and I don't think it's true because they're pressing. So to me, it's almost the opposite. I'm watching a guy let's say you're a baseball, you're a hitter, right? And you're 0 for your last 53 and you're a home run hitter. You're grabbing the stick too tightly trying to hit bombs and you're striking out with sliders 5 feet off the plate like Castellanos. That's what you're doing up there. So I don't see them as laid back and relaxed. I see them as trying to figure this out and putting so much pressure on themselves. They're tense. They're very, and that's sort of what I see. So I don't even believe Goddard. He's just spewing vomit.
Well, and I think Ocho Cinco, they're playing possum. When did Ocho Cinco become such a Philly guy?
I know. He's all over. He loves Philly.
For some reason, I don't remember him. Didn't he play for like 20 teams after he left Cincinnati? He just kept trying and trying and trying and trying.
He liked it. And he talks about it all the time now.
Takes defense of the team. I'm not sure I get it. And or we can't give him a free pass. We love him, but Brandon Graham trying to play the underdog card this week.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Back there again, Brandon.
I wrote about that. He's playing the hits, man. Playing the hits. I expected that to come. Nobody believes in us, Hunter. Nobody believes. Back against the wall. Break out the underdog, man. Oh, by the way, they're favorites. Don't ignore that part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, break them out. Break out the underdog wear. What is that? Kelsey's? Is that Kelsey's or Lane's? I forget who runs it. Yeah, I knew they were playing that card. That's the only card they got in this organization.
Exactly. And that's why I'm angry. Why can't we be top dogs? Is it too much to ask to have the target on your back and actually have a response? Now, at the end of the day, if they go win a Super Bowl this year, won't happen. But if they did, and they did it with the underdog card, I'll take it. Hey, I'll take it. But I'm just saying, I want to be the top squad, and I want to go out there. It was the same thing with Doug. It was, all right, they won the Super Bowl or they went to the playoffs, whatever. The next year, they're 4-7, and then they're 9-7, or 5-7, and then they rally. Why is it always got to be the rally? Now that we're on the other end, though, I almost wish we had that back. So how about that, right? Because the Rams started out slow. Now no one wants to see them. And there's other teams, and it's like, hey, nobody wants to see them because they're playing their best football right now. I guess I was an asshole back then because I'd sign up for that right now this second. But I want to be the top dog and just be able to do it. I hate the fact that you got to lose and dig yourself 17 feet under the ground before you have any sort of urgency. Once again, what's that say about Nick?
Nick, the entire team. I'm not just going to lay it all on Nick's door.
Sure. I agree with that.
Dallas Goedert was the guy who said it. Nick didn't say it. But
by the way, I just want to be clear. I'm normally 90% of the time, like, players are at fault. I tend to lean that way always, but there's clearly something wrong here from a coaching level too. So I am targeting that more than I normally do, but this is an example of what it would have to look like for me to do that. And I don't think that's unfair. I think this is sort of sitting in that category of you have to analyze what the coaching staff is selling, right?
All right, key element of the game on Monday night. I know I believe it. I'm pretty sure John believes it. The ability of the Eagles to handle or not handle the blitz. They've been off on it of late. They've been pretty bad at it all year long, but just like with the team, it's magnified because they're just spiraling right now. If they're not going to be dragged down by it, and Tampa can bring it because they know the Eagles are struggling against it, and they're pretty good at doing it, so it's going to happen on Monday night. How do they avoid getting blitzed to death? Coaching, speaking, playing, Jalen. How do they get past spit? They're going to blitz the you-know-what out of us just the way the Giants did, and Jalen didn't make the plays or create the plays or whatever. How are they going to beat the Tampa blitz on Monday, Connor?
It's all of the above. I think everybody has to have their hands in the cookie jar here. It starts with the week before. I'm going to sound cliche as hell. Starts with the week before. You got to have your coaching staff all week long win the battle. So can Nick Sirianni beat Todd Bowles when it comes to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the way through Monday? You need him to win that one-on-one matchup and, getting the ball out quickly, getting the ball with your playmakers, setting up good protection. And it's on Jalen, too, to recognize at times. See, the Giants, and this goes back to the possum thing. Did they not want to show anything on tape because they knew that the Tampa Bay
there it
Buccaneers,
is. You hit it.
Yeah,
if they're playing possum, if they're going to show up and they're going to see the
Sorry, Dad, you're friggin' wrong. If they were playing possum, you know how you play possum? Jalen Hurts in a tracksuit on the sideline. He never sees anywhere near the field. If you're, oh my God, we can't show anything. Yeah, then you don't even show. Jalen's home. He's not required to get on the bus and go up the turnpike.
3D
They
chess,
tried to
baby.
win.
Not only 1 week, they've been doing it for 6 weeks, playing possum. They can't handle the blitz. They knew they'd have Todd Bowles in week 1 of the playoffs.
I don't think they have the answers for it. I really don't, which is absurd. They should be able to have the answers for it, though. That's what the problem is you look at this team, you're telling me they can't. And by the way, what New York did, what Wink did, isn't that the most obvious thing in the world? That's why it's even more frustrating. Like, what did you think they were going to do? What did you think they were going to do? And you just sat there and took it. I can't wrap my head around it. What were they thinking? So, it's a combination of it all. They should be able to have the answers. Will they? Well, that tells me if they have the answers, then Nick Sirianni has a job. They don't have the answers, then Nick Sirianni loses his job.
All right, all right. That my last one for you, Bros, and that Bros 81. Bros Media, as you mentioned, WIP does a tremendous job there. Let's say he wins, he beats Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay stinks. Let's be honest.
Good point.
And then they go into San Francisco, most likely, and they play okay, but San Francisco is the best team in football. They lose 28-20, something like that. It's not embarrassing. Representative effort. Is he back? Not back.
Yeah, I think he's back. If you go in and go toe-to-toe with, let's say, San Fran on the road after winning a playoff game, I think you're back. Now, this is where I have a problem with this first playoff game, though, because if you remember last year, the Giants beat Minnesota. Yeah. Right, hey, here we go. Nice. Good job.
Fool's gold, as I called it, the moment it happened. Fool's gold, right. Hunter.
Then you go to the link and you play a real playoff. That's when the playoffs start. The divisional round, essentially, is my point. So if it's the opposite, just to play the other side of it, and they do beat Tampa Bay, then they go on the road and lose to the 49ers and look like they're in a whole separate tier, then you're the New York Giants. And then if you're if you're Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman thinking about Nick Sirianni, you got to ask the question, is last year's version of the New York Giants what you're supposed to be? And the answer is obviously no. So you can't be fooled by this first game. It comes down to that second. If it is a toe-to-toe matchup on the road with the 49ers, extremely disappointed. We're having a long talk about who your OC and your DC is. This can't be I want a Mike Groh thing. But here's another angle that I don't know if we're really that's being discussed right now. Maybe you guys have. Jalen got paid a lot of money. Jalen loves Brian Johnson. What is that like behind closure? Does he go, I want Brian Johnson. I want to work with Brian Johnson. I want him back. Or is he in the passenger seat recognizing that it wasn't strong enough and maybe that wasn't clicking the way he wanted to? But how much power, when you look at who's calling the plays, falls on those two and them wanting to still have that connection? Or is that
the quarterback does have some power now? There's no question with that contract.
But how much have we seen rock the boat Jalen? What has he rocked the boat on since he got here?
Nothing.
Zero.
Nothing.
So why would you speculate that he's going to go to bat for Brian Johnson?
Because
I
work at WIP. Now I work at WIP. That's why I speculated.
Okay.
I learned from everybody else that I tuned into all my life, like Jody Mack.
I also work at WIP, and I'll point out the fact that he's never rocked the boat. And if he's going to start,
all right. Before we say goodbye to Hunter, I got to hear JD Drew Hockey. Go.
Dude,
now, what the hell? What the hell is that?
If everything that's being reported is true, right? And now we get his representation. I'm listening to TSN. That's how psycho I am. I'm going to Sportsnet up in Canada, and I'm listening to their hits. All right, apparently his representation is going to speak soon. But if it's true, and it had to do with everything with the pass regime, this is what I'm hearing. He didn't like that the Flyers said, go back to Boston College for a second year. He thought it was time for him to go pro after his freshman year. And he's a great player. I mean, great. The kid's going to be a stud, a phenomenal weapon. But it's not like in his sophomore year at Boston College right now, he's he's got 70 more points than the next guy. He's great in NCAA, but he's at the top with like the top 10, top 15 guys. You're in the mix with them. You're a player who's eventually going to turn pro after a second year in college. But I guess he thought his balls were so big saying, this is my time. But you know what we're dealing with now, and we're seeing it around the league with some of these young kids. What we've seen in other leagues is now starting to hit hockey. Like guys in Toronto, I want my money. I want 12 mil, 13 mil a year. It's hitting this sport now. And we're kind of seeing the entitlement of these younger kids, NIL deals, this and that.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this is where we're at.
That kid from Nevada, I think the Nevada quarterback went in the portal. He agreed to go to Georgia, and 12 hours later, he changed to SC. 12 hours. He couldn't make up his mind.
Yeah, I know. So it's brutal. It's brutal. And what they got back in return is fair. I think Danny Briere and Jonesy saying pretty much, if you don't want to be here, get out. They're trying to make that logo mean something again. And that's fair. I mean, you definitely, you got hit hard with the talent thing. The player they got in return, I think, is very solid, but the ceiling of Cutter Gauthier is significantly higher, but you still got a solid piece. He was supposed to turn around the franchise. So if this was just like a screw you and flipping them off thing, wow. I'm still trying to figure it out, to answer your question.
Where I can't buy where the Flyers are coming from. If you're right, and I'm hearing the same things, other than my buddy Sam Filippo, who's putting it all on Brian Hayes. He's the guy who talked about it wanting to be a Flyer. That if there was some disagreement as to how his contract should be settled and how quickly he can get to the NHL, they just traded for a guy who was in the NHL at age 18. So if you think there's steps that players need to go through to be prepared to get ready for the NHL, they just said, yeah, give us the kid that they bum rushed into the NHL at 18 years old.
Oh, the defenseman you're talking about?
Yeah, he was 18. Yeah. He was in the NHL at age 18.
Yeah, and as a defenseman, too, that's normally they take longer to develop and all. And yeah, for sure. So this whole thing's fascinating. I do like the way, though, that the Flyers were very quiet. No one knew about this. And we know Howie likes to do. We'll tie you here real quick before we end it. Howie likes to do his little leaks. There's leaks outside this Eagles organization at will. The Flyers kept this thing pretty tight in house.
Yeah, they did.
That's a good sign. By the way, my dogs are going crazy. I don't know.
All right, go take the dogs out, Brody.
I gotta feed the baby too. I gotta feed the baby and walk the dogs.
Oh man,
it's just sickening.
Maybe think about shaving just a little bit.
You think I look like Abraham Lincoln? Do you?
Yeah, that's what Sirianni hasn't shaved. He's aging like a president.
Do not tell me that I look like that. No. Sirianni looks like he's been in jail for 19 years.
Yeah.
Hunter, it's called a mirror. Take a peek, big guy.
Shit. All right, I gotta go.
You got to clean up a little bit, buddy. Thanks, Hunter. Hunter Brody,
Hunter's great.
Broads Media.
Hunter's great. Yeah, I was talking about Jaden. It's Jaden, my Abba, the UNLV quarterback, had a great year for, whatever division that is now. I can't keep up. He transferred to Georgia for about 12 hours, and then he flipped to Southern California. Boy, this generation is something else, man. Oof.
But
can't make a decision for 12 hours, and somebody comes up with a bigger check, and bang.
You're not in until you're in. There's transitory nature to college sports these days. All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. We got to come back. We need to put a bow on this show.